are a student, pupil, parent, or teacher, discussion on improving access and quality of education is one that touches every heart and resonates with every family. Imagine a Monday morning and your children are getting ready to go to school, not just with textbooks and bags, but with the dreams and hopes for a brighter future. They are not just writing on chalkboards, but with digital laptops and computers, in an environment that is freshly painted and renovated, with passionate and dynamic teachers. They are not just learning ABC, but also skills and critical thinking that prepare them for tomorrow's jobs. Ada, Shegu, and Isiaka from humble homes are looking forward to attending universities of their choice and being able to access scholarships and funding. As the saying goes, knowledge is power, but education is the key to unlocking the vast expanse of opportunities in the economic ecospace. So, every successful Nigerian government has education on its priority to-do list, and since the return of democracy in 1999, the education sector has only made incremental progress in relation to other sectors. Issues of quality access, schools infrastructure, and inclusion have persisted, but the greatest challenge bedeviling the sector is quality and relevance to the current needs of our dynamic digital environment. In the past 1 year of the Tinubu administration, the education sector has received some attention, initiating policies and initiatives to transform the educational landscape. For instance, President Tinubu approved the Students' Loan Scheme for students in public tertiary institutions, but this is not without its own implementation critique. How can the dreams of Nigerian children be nurtured into reality? On Late Edition this week, we will focus on the education sector under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What has been achieved? What are the gaps? And where do we go from here? How is our educational sector evolving with the times? I am Ekene Ndulwe. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Yusuf Sununu is the Minister of State for Education. He is a graduate of medicine from the University of Maiduguri. He also holds a diploma and fellowship in minimal access surgery and a fellowship of the West African College of Surgeons. Dr. Sununu left a legacy of excellence and hard work, not only at the Federal Medical Center Birnin Kebbi, where he spent the prime of his career working as a chief consultant, obstetrician, and gynecologist, but also at the Kebbi State Government House, where he once served as a personal physician to the governor. In 2019, he contested and won election to represent Ngaski Shanga Yauri Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives. While serving in this position between 2019 and 2023, he chaired the House Committee on Healthcare Services, sponsoring many bills and motions, one of which precipitated the establishment of Federal College of Education Technical Yauri. He was appointed Minister of State for Education by President Bola Tinubu in 2023. Glad to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Our next guest, Honorable Rosemary Oshikoya, is a devoted humanitarian, a committed educator, a multi-skilled, work-focused, and results-oriented technocrat. She holds Master of Science degree in International Relations and Strategic Studies, University of Jos, postgraduate degree in Project Management, University of Wales, a PGDE, University of Ilorin, Bachelor of Science degree in Mathematics, University of Jos, and several certificates in various disciplines. She has served in various capacities in public office, including Special Advisor to the Kogi State Governor on Environment, Sanitation and Emergency Management, Commissioner for Environment and Natural Resources, and Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology. Member Governing Board, National Teachers Institute, among others. Honorable Rosemary Osikoya is the Executive Director of Ladi Memorial Foundation, a national NGO, and conceptualized the TVET co-curricular initiative, Young Entrepreneurs Club, and also the UNESCO-funded Incentivized Pilot Schools Sewing Championship 2023, piloted in the FCT and being scaled up as the National Sewing Champion 2024. Ma, glad to have you on the program as well.
Thank you, sir.
And this is late edition, and we are focusing on the milestone in the education sector in the past 1 year. Minister of State for Education, Dr. Yusuf Sunono. Let's begin with you, sir. What would you say are the highlights of this administration for the past 1 year in the education sector? What are those high points?
There are so many high points, but one can say in the administration, the key aspect of it, we have established strong collaborations, and the education system is now seen as one, with a very good relationship between federal government, state and local governments in our day-to-day activities, and this becomes very, very pertinent. If you look at the schools, mostly, especially basic and secondary school, are under the state and local government, with federal government having at least 115 schools. So it means there must be a very good collaboration, because at federal level, we develop policy, we send it, we supervise and monitor the implementation of such policies, and also ensure quality assurance in the educational system. Two, we have also addressed the issue critically of infrastructure, which you have mentioned as one of the major challenges facing the addition. If you start from basic schools, you find that when we came in, I think in the last about 5 months to go, awarded 50 basic schools nationwide, which are vocational based, in order to strengthen our technical vocational education and entrepreneurship. We have done that, and we have already started handing over those projects to the states. So also at secondary school level, we also have smart schools, which have been constructed all over the country. And I think out of 36 states and FCT, we're only right now are trying to address 3 challenges, that of Kebbi State and that of Enugu and Bayelsa. But others have come into being, and they have been connected with all the gadget that is necessary to that. And just yesterday, we've also commissioned the Digital Resource Center here in Abuja, which is also another hub for technology, because as you rightly mentioned, that technology is very vital and key to not only in educational development, but globally in all ramifications of development. So we have to prioritize that, and I'm quite sure, and was very happy when you said that this is not the time that we should be teaching our children A, B, C. No. The time for A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, I think is almost gone. Our children now are almost, all of them are AI technology. If you can see around an 11-year-old child that can go around Abuja with help of artificial intelligence using Google Map or any other distance. So this is not the time that we should have to tie them down. So we are doing that. At the tertiary level, you also go. I assure if you go around, most of this intervention in our tertiary institutions are through TED Fund, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, and they have done so much. Even as a minister, I've been to University of Ilorin, I've been to Uyo, I've been to many places commissioning groundbreaking projects that have completed within the time we have come in. That is in terms of our infrastructure. Well, in terms of access, so much was also been done by the president of the regime of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to improve access. This access can be in terms of a number of schools that we have. I've mentioned that of secondary school, but at tertiary level, you can also understand that Mr. President has granted the takeoff of about 7 tertiary institutions, and they have their leadership in place. And they are working hard, and we have academic activities are starting. There are regulatory bodies, the NCCE for colleges of education and NAPTE for polytechnic, And NUC for the universities are all doing hard to ensure that they also start, not only starting, but maintaining the academic standard and quality of this industry. The access also has to also be to the student. You just rightly mentioned that Mr. President has approved, assented to the revised edition of the amended Student Loan Act, which that amendment is a major issue. There are three major developments there. One of the major development is the widening the scope of the fund to not only be restricted to tuition fee, to include aspect of other sustainability of the student, including wholesale, unlike before when it was only due to tuition fee, which only 5% of the students in Nigeria will have benefited, because no university under the federal government pays or receives tuition fee from a student. It means that all the federal schools were excluded.
And even before it was revised,
yes.
Many people were already excluded.
Yes. So it's the first parents, one. The first one was highly restrictive in nature, and President, being democratic, really have to open up everything, and he subjected it to public opinion, and we have what is now owned by Nigeria. The other major development in that is also the issue. Mr. President is so keen that Nigerians need to have skills. It's not only knowledge. You quite believe that yes, there is need for knowledge and character, but there must also be a component of skill, which is also even in the national policy on education. But this has been thrown to the back door, and you see a lot of candidates lacking the critical thinking and the necessary skill to compete in the employability market, even locally and internationally. So that with this development now, if you are pursuing a particular skill, you can go and have access. And not only that, it also says that a lot of restriction in terms you have to get grantor here, and there are so many things, financial implication of no more than 500,000. This and that are all there, which were eliminated, so that this has now become a decent. And a success here is to say that it has commenced. Students have been applied, and they are now applying. And very soon the first batch will be given, and they will access their decision, because the act specified that within 1 month of application it has to be processed, and then you get the decision. And all the school we have also the ministry has directed the tertiary institutions head of executive to act promptly in terms of this. So also, if you look at it, our quality in terms of our examination has also improved. We've just had under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we just had the first jump. And that jam has recorded so much success with almost less than 0%, 1% of malpractice. This has gone to show that we have completely deployed technology into the examination system, and it's getting much better. And right now we are also facing the NECO and WAEC examination, which we also believe that is going to have, will also have the same success story, because we are committed, we are on ground, going around from one center to center to ensure that things are done accordingly. That's this. If you look at also in terms of the teachers too and the lecturers within the country, when we came in, we had so many challenges that have been a cornerstone of reason for strike, which Mr. President took the bull by the hand, by the horn, and ensured that right things are done. For example, the exclusion of all the tertiary institutions in Nigeria from going to the head of service to seek for waiver for them to employ. We were prior to now in a situation whereby if a lecturer moves today, the shortest possible time that lecturer can be replaced is about 9 months. And by the time you are if you are going to start by April, even if that money will have been exhausted, because you will have moved to another year before you can get it replaced. So Mr. President waved out that, and he also answered the cry of the ASU and other academic unions in the tertiary institution to remove them out of RPPIS, and the ministry has developed a policy on how now they will be engaged and very so as to smoothen this thing, with warning that what necessitated the government to push ASU and other tertiary institutions into IPPIs must be avoided by the management of tertiary institution, and the ministry is ever ready to handle it with all the necessary seriousness it deserves. That's this. Another major issue also is the issue of funding too. While we quite agree that Nigeria is so much in this thing, you find that the president has promised that he will gradually increase this as part of his campaign promises. at least 15% will be dedicated to education. And we have seen a situation whereby nobody can say that Nigeria is not in security challenges. Yeah. But despite all that demand, Mr. President has moved the education budget to second position. And we are also assured of the strong desire of Mr. President to make releases adequate to the Ministry of Education. And he has also, on his own, canvassed for partnership with foreign organizations. And many people are now coming in to take partnership. And one major development also that we have also achieved and is also bringing success, and very soon now, is opening the Nigerian educational sector to international collaboration. Because the ministry, through the National University Commission, and you see, we have developed a policy on transnational education. And this transnational education has two major advantages. One, it will increase access. Three major advantages. It will increase access to admission places, because it means in other transnational education, universities in Nigeria can go into partnership with their counterpart in the foreign land and come to see if they can come here and then employ students that will remain in the country and continue to pursue their distance without going to distance. Also, the campuses outside can now come into Nigeria, look at the guidelines, and then develop a campus within the country so that they can also recruit Nigerians to work in that campus, and they also can come here to teach, and even their students that can also come to have an exchange program within the country, which is a very strong distance. A major issue economically, one of the major issues that we have a pressure on dollar is not only on importation, but also for sourcing forex for students going to pay their tuition fee into other foreign countries. And you find that whenever the schools are resuming there outside, you find that even the dollar will skyrocket because of the pressure demand. So if those schools have campuses in Nigeria, the need for that money to go outside may be reduced significantly, and that will amount to so much savings in Nigeria. And that document has also received the blessing of Mr. President, and Federal Executive Council endorsed this thing. So if you also look at, in terms of, I mentioned infrastructure, so also the teacher welfare. If you look at teacher welfare, there are so many things that is being done in the country that we are silent. I was in Zambia about 2 weeks ago to attend a meeting of Africa Foundation for regulatory bodies in education authorities. You understand? So in that meeting, up till today, Africa, Nigeria is the driving factor. And we have had a strong document that provided all that is needed in terms of regulating teaching and teaching profession in the country. And that is what is now being adopted by many other African countries. In fact, the president and the headquarters of AFTRA is in Nigeria. This goes to show how much Nigeria is committed. And we must also thank Mr. President, despite the fact that there is there is conclusion that a government-funded project, government-funded foreign trips have been suspended by Mr. President. But Mr. President, in his own wisdom, any application from the Education Ministry, Mr. President has granted approval for his, because of his desire that education must be distant. And quoting Mr. President right is a correct. He said the only key weapon or what you can use to fight poverty is education. When he was assenting to NELFund, the NELFund Act, Nigerian Education Loan Fund. So these are all so many things. And then when you look at also, we are not doing badly. Nigeria has participated in many foreign competitions, and we have come back with a lot of laurel. Just now, the presidential school debate, participated in foreign discipline, and our candidates are coming with gold medal. We are planning to receive them in the ministry any moment from now. So this has goes to show that this. And then the other one key important, why we all say that there is issue. Yes, we must believe that Nigerian education, I still believe, is qualitative. Right now, Nigeria is a major focus globally in terms of employability. That's why we have a lot of brain drain from education, medicine, engineering, because of what? The COVID-19 has caused so much damage to education, because so many teachers there out have succumbed with their life to COVID-19, and there's a lot of green pasture there, so people are moving out. So, and we are doing our efforts to ensure that things are being put to order. And
Honorable Minister, you said a lot that has happened within the past 1 year. I would like Honorable Rosemary to weigh in. You heard the Minister. How would you assess the progress made so far within this short period?
First, on a personal note, I would like to thank the Minister as a Minister for State for Education as an individual. I know as an individual, he's been very committed to skills. He has on his own, from his own personal pocket, from right when he was in the State Assembly, he has done a lot, particularly in skills. I know that for fact. He's yes, because I know on the personal level we have had to encounter him, and then you hear about how in his own home local community he has gone. So this not speaking just for the office, but the fact that individuals by themselves get interested in a cause. And I think in one of the festivals, he had also tried to promote a bit of skills competition among his constituents and do all of that. These are very commendable one. For President. For our dearly beloved president in the past 1 year, now I'm not speaking for the government, but I'm trying to give a feedback as an independent, as an educationist, and to say that the government made very bold assertions. And one of his bold assertions in the Nigeria of today is promising every Nigeria parent that your child will have quality education. I think it's a big deal, because that by itself connotes that the presidency wants Nigeria to come to a time of governance, like we're saying, one that is result-based kind of leadership, where we're beginning to talk about scorecards that are not necessarily very generic, but scorecards that are now beginning to come. Exactly. So it takes us back to an era, or is the beginning of an era, where we begin to look at performance indicator in the education sector. And part of these performance indicators are not new things. But I believe that within this 1 year that His Excellency had we've been privileged to have him as president, there has been no monitoring assessment done so far. And as such, we cannot predicate as educationists to say that, for instance, is learning taking place in school? Has learning increased or decreased? So those who are agitating for those kind of indicators, because until you can put those indicators, you will not say that children in schools have learned more or learned less, except for JAM, who has drawn our attention to say, oh, learning is not taking place at secondary school level. And a bit of that is the evidence and the results that the JAM registrar put out to Nigeria. But coming to basic education, where the trust of the presence is, in the past 1 year, I want to commend the Universal Basic Education Commission. And that is on several levels, because there's one, it's true that the education is on the concurrent list of governments, and you are having this conversation between government to government collaborations. But if you look at the education sector itself, a whole lot of it are people who are not in public schools, are a lot of people who are in private schools, are a lot of people who are seeking possibly alternative education. And all this brings about another level of conversation. And that conversation is, for instance, UBEC had done something which I think is novel. It hasn't been done. The law says that for basic education, before our children finish education at GSS 3, which is about the age of 15, the child should have functional livelihood skills. And that interpreted means that the only time you are permitted to drop out is in basic education. But it's under this present 1 year in office that UBEC has come out with a bold assertion that there's a school to work scheme that were hitherto contemplated before now, and which UBEC is putting out there. Simply put, when your child registers in a public school in Nigeria now, you expect that the learning will not be theoretical. You expect that the trade subjects at the basic education level, the child will come with that outcome. That this happened within the first 1 year of His Excellency is something to commend. Because like the minister said, yes, UBEC has 51 technical schools at that level. But if you do ask again, what is the total number of schools you have in Nigeria? You will see that it has set the tune of the first year being a foundational year that will now begin to talk in terms of data and metrics that are beginning to. But again, is it a good thing? Yes, because within 1 year, a foundational year. So I would like to compliment the government to say the idea of making education more functional, I think we're beginning to see it in real terms, particularly with the Universal Basic Education Commission.
How far time has gone. We are going to take a short break now. When we come back, Honorable Minister, you are going to tell us the focus of the government in terms of skill-based education. What areas of skills are we focusing on? We know we have to keep them relevant. And this is our latest edition on NTA News 24. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
NTA News 24 has the sole mandate of bringing news to you anywhere and everywhere.
We set standards based on current broadcast realities while consolidating on a wider reach to variety of audiences.
We go beyond the screaming headlines to verify, interrogate, and accommodate all shades of opinion without prejudice to national interest.
This is late edition on NTA News 24, and we've been discussing milestone in the education sector in the past 1 year. And before we went for that break, Honorable Minister, we were talking about the quality of the school curriculum, you know, making it skill-based, making sure that the students acquire basic life surviving skills at that young age. So how are you focusing that the skills being taught in these schools are what is relevant to the modern society today?
Well, thank you very much for this. Is very, very vital question, and it's an apt question, and it's also where the interest of Mr. President comes. Because if you look at even the African Union, this year, 2024, is the year of education. And then even the theme says, educate an African so that he can be fit in 21st century, building resiliency in education to address the issue of qualities. So definitely there are also, and that's also the mandate in the 8-point agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's regimes, and we are also guided by the national policy on education, plus the gap we have identified within the ministry. And that is what we channel our decision. And we quite agree. I even mentioned it just about 10 days ago, that right now our curriculum are obsolete. And the ministry is working to ensure that. And we have started with science and technical education. National Board for Technical Education Examination, the Business and Technical Education Examination Body. We were at the here in Abuja last week. We have gathered for a 10-day retreat to review the syllabus and curricula of that. And what we are emphasizing there is to ensure that we have a strong skill-based educational system that will provide an individual with the ability to be useful to himself, contribute to the development of the country. Because that's this, and that's why also, while we are preparing the syllabi, we are also increasing the access to teachers so that teachers will now have that training to ensure that they are. Now, skill, when you say skill, you must have a digital skills. And I've mentioned earlier before that we have commissioned just yesterday the Digital Resource Center. And that center is a hub that is a one-stop shop with everything you have there, accommodation, virtually, whoever is coming there for training. And each state have so far nominated 75 teachers that were this. They were going to arm with digital skills so that we can address the issue of early childhood learning crisis, and with a very strong pedagogy that will give them the ability to transform and translate what is expected for a child to learn within the shortest possible time so that we can accelerate learning. And that's on technical applications. And so far, a lot of people have seen many adverts in their collaboration with many international organizations, whereby we are going to procure a lot of laptops that are full of content that can have both, and that content is not a foreign content, it's a content that has been produced jointly under the supervision of National Educational Research and Development Council, so that it can also address our own issue. But we must also emphasize there we are going to have a basic knowledge for AI and then other computer applications that our children will listen. So many young ones are there doing this. And also in the one we have with National Board for National Business and Technical Education Examination Board, NAPTEP, we have about 14 skills framework, this in terms of electrical, electronics, building, tiling, so many this that we have we have put together, and then to go further to that so that we can ensure that what we are doing also is backed by certification. Apart from those that we write about NAFTEC, just yesterday at Fraser's Hotel, we have declared open a 3-day stakeholders meeting that are developing the national policy national policy on skill development. And that policy will now ensure that we have already have a national skill qualification framework, which we have also developed, and it has been circulated and pushed head of service so that issue of scheme of service will be addressed using the national skill qualification framework. so that if you have relevant information, you can go into that. This is one that also develop policy and this, and then everybody knows we have an idea project in the ministry, which is a collaboration between the federal government and the World Bank. And in that idea project, so far, I think it's about 100 million US dollars, 30 million has been used. But when we came to office, especially considering the new orientation of Mr. President, we said, okay, the idea project should be removed so that it should be reviewed, so that at least 70% of it will be a component that will imbibe skill in children. This also become necessary because also here, Mr. President is also willing to see how do we move children out of street back to school. And that's why he also quickly said the National Commission for Almajiri and Out of School Children Education must begin to function, which they have, and they have had their decision, and very soon all is being set to see how we can recruit staff for them. And then we are preparing to have a national stakeholders meeting in Sokoto, and then for the northern, and then for out of school, we are also going to the western part or eastern part of the country so that we can join together to see how we can come with a very framework that will have a buy-in of everybody. And then for you to say that you are bringing some of them, just what they needed is accelerated learning. Somebody at the age of 18 is coming back to school. So you have to give him a plan that within the shortest possible time, he can have his basic education. And that basic education is not just enough without you arming him with necessary skill that is going to work. So it's also in this regard that we have also developed a policy for female who are out of school, either got married or for some certain reason they cannot continue with their education. And now they have jointly agreed with their family that they are going back to school. And so far, we have developed that policy which the National Council of Education has also endorsed that will now give them an accelerated learning and determine the level.
I want Honorable Rosemary to comment. You know, this happens to be your area. I know you've started something already in the FCT, the Sewing Championship. Yeah. So how has it been impacting on the students so far?
First, I would like to congratulate the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, because he started on a good note. Let me explain. As at 2018, I remember when I was Commissioner for Education, there were 17 states in Nigeria that did not have federal science technical colleges. And then the problem at that time was the problem of access. For instance, I use Kogi as an example. In Kogi State as of 2018, we had only 4 government technical colleges. And then you now have these tones of hundreds and thousands of other kinds of schools. But then the subjects that everybody had to do are mandatory. For instance, the trade subjects in junior secondary school, the trade subjects in primary school, a lot of people are surprised to hear that. But there are trade subjects in primary school. And so if you look at Nigeria's population of over 200 million persons, and then we are saying that a huge part of that are children, the question now we begin to ask ourselves is access. So if access is going to be a drop in the ocean, then this government would never get to where we want to get to. Because at this time, you have to do performance and you have to catch up fast. And so it takes us away from the institutional idea, in my own opinion, and you have to go out of box. So Kogi did something in 2018. We proposed that let every local government, whether it is a technical school, whether it is not a technical school, occupational skills is everybody. For instance, why do you need skills? Now we're saying that government wants to increase jobs. What kind of jobs do you need? Everything you want to do requires that you have knowledge or that you have skills. So the concept of skills as a component of learning, whether you do it formally or whether you do it informally, it means that education is actually in every sector. You take us back to the policy which the Federal Ministry of Education has also owned up. I think 2021, 2022, we have for the first time the National Policy on Science, Technology, Education. So if you look at the components of that, you will know now that even the education budget means that part of education budget is in science and technology innovation. Part of education budget is in every ministry, because every ministry has capacity to train in a particular skill area, and they all meet under the National Council on Skills. So it means if all of them harness the pocket of, take again, when a child goes on CWES at the other level, and then who pays for CWES? You go back to ITF, right? And a couple of them. All those funds that were expended, are they not education fund? So it means the new challenge these governments have is harnessing all those resources and actually putting them together. That domain in project management comes to be. But talk about skills itself. The skill that a child learn, like I would, that's why I said in this 1 year, I believe that possibly before the 2nd year of this government, which is already started, we'll begin to talk about the monitoring of learning assessments. And the monitoring of learning assessments actually tells us whether skills are whether learning is taking place in schools. And what is assessed is, does the child have leadership skills, life skills, communication skills, and all other one we have blankets over that. But let's talk about this. If my child is not in a state that is receiving special intervention, should my child not receive the benefits of the government that says that my child will still have quality education? Then at which time, in which percentage would I expect my child to attain all of those goals? Then we also begin to look at, if my child goes to a private school and the child in private school possibly already have access to an iPad, at which time, who is going to provide these pads? In which percentage would these children have? Talking about state learning environment. So I think the problem is not only that of the federal government, which is why I said that every state have a co-shared responsibility, and I've been following very closely for states who are celebrating 1 year in office like the president, and some of them are actually very interesting feedback from the state level. What have you done in education? And some of them in their performance have not spoken to the key education indicators. How many children are in school? How many children are out of school? And last year, when His Excellency took over, around October, a global assessment of education was done, and they said Nigeria is ranked about 124. I'm still interested in reading the full report of how we get to 124. So it then means for me, personally as an individual, and also as an educator, that when we are now talking about the skills a child should learn, if they are artisan skills, then for us to catch up with where the president wants to go, we must go into unconventional methods. That's why I said, if you expect that government, for instance, the Federal Ministry of Education alone, or the state ministries of education, who would be responsible for their schools alone, if they take only those fraction of this school, then the average child will never be reached. But if at the end of the day, the space of skills development and the space of skills intervention begin to bring in a public-private partnership that have all of us, yes, we have training centers and we have training institutions, but most importantly are the innovations that also incentivize the transfer of responsibilities to the individual. Because if I have to go to a government center to be paid to learn, if I have to go to a government center, but that's the idea, we did a research, for instance, in the World Skills Competition, Nigeria had never really taken part at a global level. And I'm happy, I think that is one of the government's achievements for this year, because from all the conversations we'll be having and monitoring up in there, Nigeria is putting things together so that Nigeria becomes part of the World Skills Competition. What does that do? Because competitions on the one side are co-curricular activities. And what co-curricular activities do are sum total of all the other experiences that a child learns that reinforces learning. So for so long as we focus on general education, I have to write and pass WAEC. But the output of that, because the argument why skills are not working also, as case holders have established, is that if my child goes to school in the morning, and my child leaves schools at 2 o'clock or at 12 o'clock, the time the child have to prepare to pass WAEC, which is the goal, is to pass WAEC and NECO, or to pass BASE. So the other time that the child is not in school, you can't hold the ministry accountable for them. The child spends that time. But you remember when you and I are in school, you begin to find that the time of co-curricular is when you finish with the normal general education. You get to play sports. And so in that case now, I ask you another question. If sporting activities is also a part of what makes a child matured, you know, it takes us back to this age limit we are talking about, that for children, possibly in private school, who have gone through, who have done sporting, who are matured at their age, if my child finishes at the age of 16, I will wait at home for 2 years to get into university. It's part of the ongoing one we're saying. But having said that again is, can my child go to school and get scholarship because my child is a sportsman? Because the domain of sportsmanship, football, basketball, and the rest of them teaches the child other things the child may not learn in the classroom. Teamwork, cooperation, and then you are developing other faculties that had not just necessarily to do with your mental state, and then you are developing other skills. But having said that, I also realized that how many Nigerian schools have workshop? We've seen some videos circulating in the social one where a small school in China, the child is already learning how to bake. The child is learning how to sew. So it means if the child do not have a practical exposure of how to nail hammer, of how to sit on a sewing machine, which is a bit of what we have done in the center. If you do not incentivize that child, so I think from a policy level, policies also have to create that robust environment that allows participation and responsibility from individuals. Like you mentioned about the project, we actually didn't start with a competition. A bit of what we did was, we thought the idea was our children don't spend enough time in school. So thanks to the FCT, with the FCT Secondary Education Board and the FCT Basic Education Board, they provided a classroom for us to test what we had done in the neighborhood, in the office. That children who are between the age of 8 and 12, they are already doing pre-vocational in school, and pre-vocational also have to do what things we as mothers want our children to do with us: cook with us, do gardening with us, and look after the home. So we brought a sample of children together and we said, let's do that. And we found that at the age of 9, children were beginning to develop interest. So their paradigms begin to shift from I cannot sit on a sewing machine to actually I can use a smaller one. But where did it take us? In Piakasa, Junior Secondary School Piakasa, with a sample size of about 56, we found that if you take the time that the child is not in school, and you give the child access to training consumables, all the things they need, plenty clothes to play with, and you become making skills fun. And then we tested that children can develop this skill. Okay. Okay. And so you find that if you do that on a larger scale, it doesn't have to be a special intervention now. Okay. It means that we are demanding that every school, just like UBEC is trying to do, can every state pick this as something they can do. Right. So if you do that, competence is improved. Let's
go back to the Honorable Minister. So, you know, getting students, getting our education system to where the President wants it to be, we need to have our children in school. And the statistics out there is frightening, the number of out-of-school children. You earlier talked about the Almajiri schools, revamping it to make sure that you get students who are roaming the street back to the schools, actually. I would like you to tell us the practical steps that have been made so far in this regard to make sure that we reduce the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Okay,
you see, when you talk about out-of-school children and many other things, you cannot take look at it in isolation. And that's why, as a ministry, we came out with a project which has received the endorsement of Mr. President. The acronym DOT tries to summarize or put together something that we can have and use as a tracking mechanism in our implementation of government policies. The D stands for data. You have just mentioned a lot, and in Nigeria is one of the few countries in Africa. It's among the countries in Africa that you will always be ashamed. You go to an international conference, somebody will ask you, how many children do you have at junior secondary school final year? How many students do you have at your SS final year? How many do you have at different level of education? Data is not there. Data is not there, and even the issue is now we mention out of school children. Some will say 20 million, some will say 15 million, some will say 10.5 million. In some bell you see it as low as 6. It means whatever data you took is not just this. So, and we said, okay, let us develop a project, and we say we are going to have a data repository of all the schools where they are, their situation and their listen, of all the teachers we have in the country, where they are located, what they are doing, what are their minimum qualification, what are this, and then also for all the children. In fact, for the children, we have also gone ahead to see, we are working in collaboration with National Population Commission, that we can have a leeway there whereby we can allow to be given a number that will assign to each student, which probably, if the NPC wants it, it can be the NIN, and that number we can use it. You can be able to track students from wherever they are in Nigeria. And the dashboard will be open to virtually everybody so that you can have, but only that imputation will be controlled so that people will not be putting in fact data. And that is also, President has granted approval to that, and the project is soon will commence. And then the O is the major interest of the President, the out-of-school children. How do we do and what do we do with them? And then the only way is if we either act or our failure to act will spell doom to Nigeria. Because having 220 million, let's use the baseline of 20 million out-of-school children that are not in school, that represents a very huge pool that can easily be utilized by miscreants to cause this thing. Take, for example, we have a lot of bandits. We have Boko Haram and many other insurgency. I assure you that if you go there and take statistics, only maybe 0.001% of them are graduates. This goes to show that there is a direct relationship between education and peaceful coexistence in the society. Because when you are educated, you have people who can have critical thinking to think of what to do for Nigeria, and then they can also have their mind to create what they can have to make best use of their time. So the president is worried of that. And then in the out of school children, we have also come to say, okay, what are our goals? Our goal is to see that in the next 4 years at least we can reduce that value by at least 70%. You understand? And which is a very ambitious, and we're working hard. And we say, okay, what are the tools? We now identify that we have so many instruments that we're going to work to achieve our goal. In the ministry, we have Department of Basic Education. We also we have also a Department of Federal Science and Technical Education, which that has to do with skills and skill. And then we also have secondary school education. And then we have the universal basic education, who are also into the same goal. We also have the nomadic education, and we also have the adult and mass literacy education. And to put it all, Mr. President has also given directive, the National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children Education must also function. So we say, okay, this is where, even before, as you rightly said, there are a lot of policy documents. But where we lack issue, and that's the major issue we find in the ministry, we have different documents and this thing. But unfortunately, what the basic education department is doing, the science and technical education is not aware of it. If you go secondary, they are not aware of it. And we say now we must have a common goal. And that's why we now started that synergy, and each one will have its own particular responsibility, and whatever one is doing, the other must know. And we'll be using ourselves to track the system. And then we now go to the T, which all you do, once you don't have a solid foundation of your teachers, in terms of their welfare, in terms of their training or retraining, in terms of so many things, in terms of even their knowledge, and we also agree that there are areas that we have serious gap and defect, and we need to retrain. Let's take, for example, the early childhood education and development. Very few teachers have experience or knowledgeable or qualification in public schools because of that. And that's why you find, as at now, very few public schools have nursery school component because lack of speciality in that. Most of the nursery schools are in private schools. You understand? So we are also addressing that issue of capacity at that level in terms of building. And luckily for us also, when you are working, you have partners. Japan government had come into us in trying to partner with us to increase the capacity of our teachers through the UNESCO IPBA, and we are working hard to ensure that we have done that. So our target is that we are going to reduce out of school, improve on the capacity of teachers. And I mentioned earlier that Teachers Regulatory Council are this, and we have gone ahead to ensure that this henceforth will ensure that whoever is going to be recruited, not only at federal but even at state level, must be a professional teacher. And we must have a definition of who is a professional teacher, because you can be a professor but you are not a professional teacher. True. For her example, she's a professional teacher. A professional teacher is a teacher who has a minimum qualification of National Certificate of Education, or in addition to his postgraduate, has postgraduate diploma in education, PGDE. And that is the definition of a professional teacher. And even if you are at that, you are not still a professional. You must register with Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. As a medical doctor, I can have my MBBS, but I can even have a fellowship. West Africa, even whatever college you will have, but provided you are not registered with Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, you have no reason to enter into a theater or hold a stethoscope in a government hospital. You are not. You are a doctor, but you are not a registered doctor. You understand? So you can go to bank and work, or anywhere you want to work with this, but you cannot practice. And we have seen it a lot. So many people coming from outside writing exams in order to make them eligible to practice medicine. You understand? They have to go several times. If we can entrust life and protect it, to say that you have to have a registration. Now, why can't we protect the future of our own children? That please, you can have no business to do in hospital, in our school, provided you are not registered. Yes.
As a professional teacher yourself, not so many Nigerians are interested in teaching profession anymore. as a result of...
Quite all right. Look, let me say that we
many
are also,
people.
at the ministry, we observed that too. And we are now trying to see how we can, when we realize that there is a decreased enrollment, even in teacher and teacher. So what we try to see, how do we incentivize it? And as from this year, apart from whatever support you have, provided you are going to study National Certificate of Education or any qualification that has to do with education, be it in sciences, be it in this thing, you will receive a scholarship support from the Federal Ministry of Education. And Adibat has already gone out, and it's going to be a very beautiful package for everyone who wants to be a teacher.
Interesting.
I'd like you to come in here.
My mother thought that if you are a girl, mind you, I was born in the 70s. So my mother said, if you are a girl and you are not a nurse and you are not a teacher, you don't have a profession. But despite that, I refused to be a teacher. I wanted to be something else. And then not even because of the monetary values. But you see, you have to be incentivized to do certain things. I want to thank the wife of the president, Senator Bola Senator Remi. Yes. You know, she did something. I like to talk about incentives. Why should I be a teacher and why do I want to be a doctor? The incentive is part of what drives you. So you can sell incentive to somebody in terms of you are saving a life, in terms of you are serving God, or I can give you incentive in terms of there's a reward for you. Now, why should schools obey you? It's because there's either a disincentive that discourages you, or there's one. Like I said from the beginning, Federal Ministry of Education cannot deliver the mandate alone. It has a policy role, it has a stakeholder engagement, but most importantly, it should incentivize that. Why did I say I want to thank the wife of the president? She came up with 2 initiatives that are competition. Now, every woman in Nigeria wants to establish a garden because the wife of the president has a 25 million for you, for your garden, if your garden works. And at the same time, it's also telling you that I can do adire, and I also will get a 25 million. But what are the incentives for students in school to learn skills? Part of that is where I think I want to thank him for the partnership he talked about. We need to be able to provide incentives and rewards for children to encourage them to do that. Like the National Sewing Championship we are talking about. If garment making is mandatory before a child gets to junior secondary school, and you finish, and you do it mandatorily, and when I get to senior secondary school, I am also compelled to do it as a trade subject if I want to do that. If you provide a reward for that child and said, I want to know which is the best school that is best in this, I have, like we did in the FCT last year, you transfer the responsibility for delivering the results to the school, right? But at the same time, the child that wants to handshake the minister would also do a bit more than that. So I think there will be not just the stick as we always weight them. We need to bring in a lot of innovations. We need to bring in a lot of incentive to tell the child that it is rewarding for you to learn skills, in addition to providing access, providing the needed augmentation. And I don't have to wait until I finish NYC.
Okay. The program, we are about rounding up, but Honorable Minister, just in 1 minute, what are we expecting in the from the President's administration?
Well, from the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR administration, what we are expecting at the end of it all is to have a quality education that is backed by morality in terms of character, knowledge in terms of the certificate you are going to earn, and then skills that will find you a position that you can compete globally, locally, for you to earn a living and be a good citizen of the country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Late Edition. We wish to appreciate our guest, Dr. Yusuf Sununu, Minister of State for Education. Glad to have you on the program, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And Honorable Rosemary Osikoya, Executive Director, Ladi Memorial Foundation. Glad to have you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
All right. And I am Ekene Ndulwe. Thank you for watching.